The reason why my dad was so pivotal is that you need to examine who he is. He born into a poor family, born in 11 Heights, in this island. His early years of learning were very influential. Back then, when he was a child, we had children who would come out of these correctional facilities. We had children that were orphaned, but none of them were homeless, and none of them were without being fed every single day. Hawaiian families, local families would take in the poor kids, and his parents, even though poor, would take in his children. And so my dad would come home. He don't talk about those stories. He didn't want to talk about those stories, but his older brother would tell us stories about they come home, they get 12 children in the living room. They don't know their names, they're strangers to them, and yet we call it ana, but you adopt them. And they feed them and they take care of them. And when my uncle would tell me, yeah, we saw mom and dad drink water for dinner, we know tomorrow on the breakfast you eat guava when you go to school. And that single time sleeping next to, eating next to poor children had a huge impact on the whole destiny of my father's life. The other one was December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor bomb, junior in high school, playing football in Maui. Military gave him a machine gun, came in his way, they don't know how to fire it, and put him on the beach. They thought the Japanese were invading. Scary time. Hawaii had half the population then. Everybody knew everybody. Father tries to get in to the military to protect the simple values of just simple freedom that we take so for granted. But he was too young. His best friend won't tell this story, but Dad won't tell me that my dad falsified his birth certificate, went to Washington State, entered the Army. Story I was told, they thought he was Native American, so they made him first scout. Now, first scouts, in those kinds of ways, they fought with front lines. As many of you know, they only last about 2 minutes in battle. My dad landed at Normandy, too young. European invasion, flooded those beaches. He got across. He fought 400 miles across French soil, shot in the head. 1 mile from the German border. It was wintertime, white snow, green fatigues, sniper in a tree. Took out his left eye, exited his nose. The Oklahoma man talks about these stories, that they had piles of wounded in the front lines, those that had limited medical supplies. They give it to those that had the best chance to survive, and the ones who were severely wounded, they wouldn't. My dad was in a second pile. The Oklahoma man said that me and another guy put him in a cot. Father deserves more, because he's a man of courage. I never met or even knew the name of the other man, except in the landmines he killed, shrapnel went to his wife, close into him, he never operated on. He ended up in the New York hospital, didn't die. And it's in that hospital that my father starts to talk about his story. He says, you know, Nainoa, they bandaged my eyes 2 years so that I could repair the left eye. And in the blackness of that hospital is where I understood the power of vision. Know your destiny. Know your destination. Figure out how to get there. Know who you serve along the way. My father was the one of courage. My father was the one of vision. My father understood what commitment really means. We needed that. We get into that biomedical world with our leadership, not like talking to each other. And my dad, in 45 minutes, changes our world. Let me share that with you. He talks about again, you guys want to know what to eat? Can you see the destination? You know what it is? How are you going to get there? And who do you serve along the way? It was very interesting, this conversation, because this whole thing is not about us. And he talked about you guys are broken. You need to get together. I don't care about the things that divide you. I want to know the things that unite you. What are those core values that you agree on Take your vision, take your values, express it to them. And he made an extraordinary point that was shifting all of us. He said, this community that you're going to talk about, this community that you're going to engage, you need to define that community. You make sure that this community is about stuff like wanting to learn, wanting to share, wanting to work, wanting to give back. It's about a community based on values. Then he said, and make sure you never define it by the things that divide you, like race and geography. The Father really clearly said that this voyage is supposed to be of those values that are common to the world. Then the hard part. And this is where you guys come in my humble opinion. My father never saw success at finding Tahiti. My father found success in young people willing to take risks, to go to school, to give back. And then his whole journey was about learning. So he says, you create a sail plan and tell me everything you need to do to get ready for the voyage. 95% of this voyage is not going to be when you leave for Tahiti. It's going to be when you commit to the vision and values and you train. And in the training comes the learning. And he was absolutely correct. Crystal clear. It wasn't formalized learning. It was many, many other things, and I'll speak to them. And then he said, this sail plan that you put together, you give it to me, I hold you to it. And you do every single step where you don't go. Don't talk about departure dates. Talk about learning. And then in the end, my dad simply said, when you finish your training, you come to me. Now I'll ask you one question. Is this voyage worth the risk? And that question is to me. If you don't let his son go, maybe you don't come home. That's the courage of dad. And, then he had a very strong reminder. He said, carry your culture with humility, with pride, strength and identity of the host people of your land. But make sure you do it that embraces all cultures and all people. That in your search, in your need to strengthen your identity, make sure you do it in a way that doesn't weaken somebody else's culture to do the same. Bring the world's cultures together. It was extraordinary. Shifting our thinking. And then the piece that's about you is about this voyage. He said, it's not about us. It's about children not born. And making sure we have a roadmap of learning for them to understand what's truly important. That this voyage is for children. Children not born. And the learning that we take, our whole fundamental job in the end was to go learn a whole different way. Call it informal, if you wish. I call it essential. And you bring it back, and you tell your children so they don't forget. It was awesome. We were together 45 minutes pop. We're solid. We're going to go. We go to the parking lot. My dad pulls me over to the side and says, hey, Nainoa, you want to navigate? Who's your teacher? We know, Mom, don't come back. We'll go. Remember him saying what's good for me? Had to. Got on an air bike flight, flew a migration, found them on a small atoll. Well, he let me find them. Sat on a white sand beach on a driftwood log. Mao, out of all his great values, one is a great compassion, knew of Eddie's story, very sad, head low. And I said, Mao, we need not to find Tahiti for us, but help us find it ourselves. Will you come back and will you teach? Oh, man. Mao, like the book, he said, whoopsie. He didn't want to come back. I went home. Dad, no, you don't come. Me, boy. 2 months later, I received a phone call from Mao's son, Henry, in Saipan, going back from trauma. Ma will be at your house tomorrow. He's coming. I lived in a one-bedroom rental house. I was a commercial Christian, never washed my clothes. Hardly had any food. Now this great master navigator living with me. He lasted 3 days. Moved in with mom and dad. He was doing his own bed, his own bath, and he ate. And then he just, I cannot express it, but he just took us by the hand like children, pulled us to his window of time into the world. It was powerful. Yes, informal education, call it wherever it is, but that's why I say it's essential. Here you have the master navigator, master teacher, taking you to a place. It's the only way we can learn. There was no other opportunity. And it was changed to all of us. And one of the great challenges we had was, again, Ma was trained to, he was chosen by his grandfather at age 1 on Sapporo, put in tide pools to play in the ocean, to build this instinctual understanding of the earth. Age 5, in old age, he was sailing with his grandfather in the voyaging canoe. And then when he gets on the voyaging canoe and they go up and down the waves, he gets seasick. His grandfather would tie his hands together, throw him overboard, and drag him. I don't know how far you can do that today in modern times. But Mom never talked about that story of abuse. She talked about kindness. She said, when the canoe would make me sick on top of the wave, my grandfather would throw me into the ocean so I can go inside the wave. When I go inside the wave, I become navigator. When I become navigator, then I can help the people. And now you got us guys in our early 20s, and we're too old. We're too old. And we had to accelerate learning. We went to our science institutions, primarily again the Mission Museum and the University of Hawaii. So it was a need to marry the tradition, the heritage of science and technology to combine learning. It was a key decision, but not an easy one. Because part of the Hawaiian community was saying that this canoe is for Hawaiian eyes and Hawaiian hands only. And I understand, I don't agree with it, but I understand it. They're afraid that somebody will take it away again. This man here, best friend, his name is Wilbur Selko, Bishop Museum Planetarium lecturer. I had difficulty figuring out how the moon worked. I called him 6:30 in the morning. He took me down to show me how the moon worked, and then we had a friendship for the rest of our lives. At the Bishop Museum, I'm sorry, but we used to ride the security guards and play lunch. And they would lock us in all night with our sleeping bags, and we'd stay there, turn the machine on, and go all over the earth, and sit on the land. It's an easy ride, by the way. But that issue about Hawaiian hands only, my dad hears it, comes to us, that ain't an issue, it's mine. Your job is to learn. Your job is to learn. And he kept pounding that into us. And that was key. And it just opened up a whole other world. And it was also because the training, we trained 3,000 miles, 2 years, we sailed 1 inch to we did my dad's sail plan. What happened was transformation of the crew to family values. Crew key issue of taking care of each other. Everybody comes home. Everybody gets weak. Sometimes someone's strong, you carry them. Because you know what? Sometimes we carry you. And Hokulea was our school. It's that informal school. And we trained, and it was beautiful.